Hey guys, it's Madison Estes. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing a massive book haul video. There's this organization called Friends of the Library that runs a bookshop inside of the library, and the proceeds from all of the sales go to help the library run their various programs. Every year they do an annual book sale that lasts several days, and on the last day of the book sale, for the last couple hours, they do something called a bag sale. They take everyone out of the room, they made us wait in the hallway for about 30 minutes, and then they let us loose into the book sale all at the same time with these massive bags, and we were allowed to fill them up all the way to the top for $2. In fact, my first bag was actually a little bit above the top, but it was still $2. So the bag sale is how I managed to walk away from that book sale with 44 books for about $4.50, which if you do the math is about 10 cents a book, and you really can't get a better deal than that. So the first book I want to talk about getting is Harlan Coben's Don't Let Go. I have wanted to read this book so bad. There was a preview of this book in a book of his that I read called Home, and I've been wanting to get my hands on it, and I had put it on my list to go check it out at the library. And it's one of those things where I always forget. First of all, I don't use my library enough anyways, even though it's not that far. But I'm just really glad that I have my own copy now, so it'll be easier to read it like whenever I'm just in the mood for it, because I'm such a mood reader. It's about a guy whose twin brother and his twin brother's girlfriend end up dead, and then his girlfriend breaks up with him shortly afterwards, which is kind of suspicious. And then this is him like several years later looking back on that crime and trying to figure out what happened. So it was really good. Like I said, the chapter that was in the back of Home really got me interested in this book, and I cannot wait to read this. I also, again, during the book sale, it's just crazy. It's chaos. Like, you see something that looks interesting, or you see an author whose name looks familiar and you don't have that title, you just grab it. You don't look at the backs of books. You do that later. That's kind of part of the fun, actually, is that you just don't know what you're grabbing, and you don't know what you're going home with, basically. So I grabbed 3 other books by Harlan Coben because I just started getting into this author. I've only read 1 book by him, but I liked it a lot. And I figure, this gives me 4 chances to find another book of his that I like. So the next book I want to talk about is Dead and Gone by Charlaine Harris. This is the book that the True Blood series was based on. I have not seen the True Blood series. I know, during that phase of, vampire mania, I kind of got burned out really quickly, and now I'm kind of slowly catching up on, some of the books and series that were really popular during the vampire craze. But this looks interesting, and I've seen this cover so many times in so many used bookstores, and it's really pretty, and I've always kind of wanted to check out the series, so I figure this is a really good incentive. It's a nice, very inexpensive way to see whether or not the series is something I'll be interested in. And just in case I am interested in the series, I grabbed 3 more installments in the series. This next book is the book that I'm probably most excited about finding in this book sale. This is the one that was just like the rare gem that I was super excited to find. And that is Chain Letter by Christopher Pike. This is vintage. It looks like it was released during the 90s, which is the time period in which I was obsessed with R.L. Stine and Christopher Pike. And so I was just really excited to find this. The art style reminds me of my childhood, and it reminds me of going to the library to check out R.L. Stine and Christopher Pike, so I'm really excited. And I don't think I've ever read this one, so really excited about this find. This alone to me was worth going to the book sale for, like even just disregarding every other book that I find. I know I'm gonna read this, pretty sure I'm gonna like it, and I'm really excited about this book. I also found 2 other books that kind of remind me of that style. Just the art style kind of reminds me of those books that were released during the 90s. This book sounded really interesting. It's about this guy who is a liaison between the living and the dead, and he can see ghosts, and he has a friend that's a ghost, and this guy is after him, and the guy who's after him has the ability to send his ghost friend into the great beyond. I thought that was a really great premise, and I'm really interested in checking this out. I grabbed this book just because I thought the cover looked really cool. It's called Between Golden Jaws, and it's about a girl that's being pursued by a fae prince. It reminded me a little bit of Labyrinth, and I'm definitely going to be picturing David Bowie as the fae prince in this story. This is another book that I was really excited to grab. It's called Until the End by Christopher Pike, and it's actually a compilation of 3 of his novels, The Party, The Dance, and The Graduation. And I was a little bit disappointed because I didn't realize at the time that I actually have 2 out of the 3 books in this series. I have the first book and the last book. For some reason, someone had grabbed the second book. And I actually got the copies of those books at one of the previous book sales. So I was kind of disappointed because I already have 2 out of the 3 books in here, but I'm thinking I might go ahead and, I don't know. I was thinking about going ahead and getting rid of the 2 I have and just keeping this because it has the whole trilogy, but that one has the vintage covers that I like so much, so I know it's kind of silly, but I like the vintage covers. It makes me feel you know, like I'm reading something from my childhood, even if I didn't read those particular books, just because it's the same style and it's the same author that I read a lot of his books when I was that age. So, but I also might keep it because it has that second book that I don't have. I might just go ahead and reread the whole series this time. And this time I wouldn't have to skip the second book like I did last time, so I grabbed this book because I remember reading the first book whenever I was in middle school. It's a shadow children's book. This series is about a world where overpopulation is a massive problem and third children are considered illegal, and I don't remember what happens to them, but I think the general idea is that these children are either like killed or imprisoned, and you know, the parents are imprisoned as well if they find out that they have more than 2 children. So I thought that this was really interesting, and I definitely want to get back into this series and finish it. So I was really excited to find these 2 books by Lisa C. I actually read Dreams of Joy a long time ago, and I have a hardback copy on my shelves right now, but I'm thinking about replacing that with this copy, and you know, that way I can keep both of my Lisa C books together, and they're like the same height as well. I really like keeping, you know, the same books by the same author together, but then whenever like the books are different heights, or if some are paperback and some are hardback, I also like to categorize my books by keeping the hardcovers together and like the books that are the same size together. I think it just looks a lot nicer, so I might end up getting rid of my hardcover copy of Dreams of Joy and keeping this one so that, you know, the author books can stay together and they're like, you know, the same general size. And I haven't read Snowflower and the Secret Fan yet, so I'm really excited to read that. Shanghai Girls and Dreams of Joy, and this book as well, all of them are about Asian women, and it takes place hundreds of years in the past, and it kind of talks about, you know, what life was like for them back then, and, you know, some of the issues that they faced, and there's also usually some romantic subplots as well. So I really enjoy these books. I think that it's, you know, women's fiction done in a way that's really respectful and also really interesting and eye-opening, and I also feel like her books are very immersive as well. So I took an online writing class with David Baldacci on how to write thrillers, and I thought it was really interesting and helpful, so I ended up getting a lot of his books at the book fair or book sale. Yeah. I just really wanted to check out his work after I heard the masterclass, and particularly the Camel Club, which he said is like a fan favorite. So I have they just fell. So I have a hardback copy of The Camel Club, which he says is one of his most popular books. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know that it's about a group of people that study conspiracy theories, and I'm guessing at least one of those theories must be correct because they end up being pursued by an organization. Anyways, I've heard really good things about this, and you know, he says it's one of his most popular books, and I thought that his class was really insightful, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a read and maybe check out 1 or 2 of these other books by him that I grabbed. So this is a book that I'm really excited about. It's called The Science of Vampires. Whenever I grabbed it, I thought that it was either going to be like a paranormal murder mystery or a paranormal romance, but it's actually looking at vampires through a scientific lens. If, you know, they were real, what would they actually be like? And, you know, it's talking about famous vampires like the ones in Anne Rice's novels. It's like a science textbook about vampires if they were real. One chapter in particular that I know I'm going to read is Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Vampire Sex But Were Afraid to Ask, because that sounds like it's going to be a very interesting chapter. Speaking of vampires, the queen of vampire fiction herself, Anne Rice, also wrote this book, Cry to Heaven. I have no idea what it's about, but it's Anne Rice, so I will definitely give it a read. I grabbed this book because the cover is gorgeous. It's called How Are You Going to Save Yourself by J.M. Holmes. I had no idea what the book was about, and I read the inside cover, and I'm still not entirely sure what the book is about. It says, these stories fearlessly engage with issues of race, sex, drugs, class, and family. So I'm thinking it's going to be just a bunch of different stories about different characters. I think I'll read the first couple chapters and see whether or not this is something I'm actually interested in, but you know, whenever you're just grabbing books that are like 10 cents or less and throwing them into a bag, sometimes you just grab a couple books because they look pretty and, you know, maybe it'll end up being a good read too. This story is called Fingerlickin' 15 by Janet Evanovich. I've seen this author several times on Instagram and in bookstores, and you know, I like the cover a lot as well. I went ahead and I actually did read the inside of this before I put it in the bag. And you know, it's about a celebrity chef that gets murdered, and I really love murder mysteries in general. I really love the idea of like a celebrity chef getting murdered, and I think this is going to be a really fun read. Okay, I'm going to get away from all of like the thrillers and murder mysteries, which is like, I realize now, probably about 80% of what I picked up. I picked up a few romance books as well, such as Night Game by Christine Fihan. I've read a couple of her books before. She usually writes paranormal romance, and that's what this looks like as well. It's about a guy who is a part of Special Forces investigation, and he's trying to track down this girl that they did experiments on, and I'm sure they're going to fall in love, you know, madly in love, and also end up being like soulmates or something, because a lot of her books revolve around the idea of soulmates. So this looked fun, and like I said, I recognized the author's name, and I've liked her books before, so I figured I'd check it out. So I grabbed this book, The Mister by E.L. James. I recognized the author's name, but I wasn't sure where, and it wasn't until later that I was like, oh yeah, 50 Shades of Grey author. I tried reading the first book in that series and I just couldn't get into the first book, so I don't know if I'm gonna like this or not, but I really liked, you know, the premise. It's, you know, about this guy in London. He is a rich aristocrat and he ends up falling for this girl, and it just sounded like a, you know, an interesting story, so I'll give it a shot and I'll try to keep an open mind, because, you know, it does sound like a really good story, and until I realized that I didn't like one of the other author's books, I was really excited about reading it. And I had seen this title before, this cover on Instagram, so I was like, oh yay, and I just grabbed it without thinking. But, you know, I'm gonna give it a shot and I'll let you guys know what I think. I probably won't do an entire book review on it because I mostly just review horror and thrillers on this channel, but you know, if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, I'll probably, you know, mention whether or not I thought this book was good. So this is kind of funny. I was just browsing the books and I overheard this woman say Mr. Darcy and Racy, and without thinking I said, Racy, where? Just kind of joking, and this woman grabs this book, this Mr. Darcy Takes a Wife, and she hands it to me and she's like, you must read this book. It's amazing. In fact, there's other books in the series. You're going to want to check those out too. And I figure, you know, someone not only recommending one book to me, but trying to recommend the entire series, she must really like this book. So that's why I checked it out, just based on, you know, the fact that it's about Pride and Prejudice and it's racy. Those two things, I'm like, okay, that's enough for me to at least give this book a shot. And that, and the fact that, you know, a woman literally handed me this book and is like, you need this book. You need this book in your life. You know, like I said, during the bag sale, books come and go very quickly, so she just, you know, snatched it for me and she's like, you're gonna want this in your bag. So that's another reason why, you know, I'm gonna check this book out. So I really hope that it lives up to the hype. So back to the horror and thriller books, since that is mostly what I got. This book is called Tales of the Evermore, and it's autographed, which is kind of cool. This is not the first time that I have gotten an autographed book at a bag sale, but it's still pretty neat to, you know, to have another one. And this is just a collection of horror stories, just random horror stories, and I'm excited to check this out. This book is interesting and a bit puzzling to me. It's called Venomous by Christopher Pike. I grabbed it just because I thought the cover looked really cool and the description on the back was interesting. It's about a teenage boy who has serious anger issues, and he's a loner because, you know, he has had violent outbursts before that have, you know, made him not so accepted by his peers. And he meets a goth girl who kind of starts, you know, making him wanting to change his ways and be less aggressive, I suppose. And it's really interesting because this book is young adult. It's written for like 14 and up, and it talks about how the book is funny. Like in the dust jacket, it says this book is a funny adventure, and I'm like, funny? Like, this guy beats up people and he has anger issues. I guess they mean like in a dark comedy kind of way, but it's just really interesting to me. I definitely want to check this book out even more after reading like the full inside of the dust jacket, being like, it's a comedy about a guy that's got anger issues and it's aimed for children. Okay, that should be interesting. But anyways, that cover is just really awesome, so I'm really looking forward to reading this. This next book is called Before I Wake by Dee Henderson. Please excuse the glare. I'm having a really hard time finding any angle where there's not like a massive glare on this book, but it's okay because the cover looks really awful anyways. It looks like it's photoshopped. It's really, really bad. I don't know if this is a self-published book or not, but the cover definitely screams, this is something that I got for 10 bucks on Fiverr. It's really, really bad. But anyways, this is about a killer who goes around murdering rich tourists, and he leaves all of their jewels and money behind. I thought that was really interesting. It definitely seems like this killer is trying to make some kind of statement, and that's kind of what made me want to grab the book and read it. And it also seems like it's got some kind of love triangle thing going on as well. Hence, you know, the cover where it looks like they were literally just photoshopped on top of each other. Anyways, I'm interested in reading this book and seeing if you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, if the cover is not worthy of the story inside of it. We'll see. I also grabbed some James Patterson books. I don't think I've ever read James Patterson except for Letters to Susanna, like a long time ago, and I did really enjoy that book, but I haven't read anything else by him, so I figured I would start with Along Came a Spider, one of his most popular books, and I think this is one of the first books in the Alex Cross series. My friend really recommended that series, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot and see. But yeah, I grabbed Along Came a Spider, Jack and Jill, I, Alex Cross, and Cross. And my friend told me that I don't need to read them in order, but I'm still going to try to read them in order. I don't know if any of these is technically the first book in the series, although she told me that Along Came a Spider is either the first or one of the first books, so I'll probably go ahead and start with this one and then start reading them chronologically after that. This book is called Blown Away by Shane Jarek. It is about a woman that is a rookie cop and she wants to become a homicide detective, and lucky for her, there's a serial killer that apparently has some kind of fixation on her because he's murdering people and leading clues that lead directly to her. So I really like this. It definitely has a little bit of a Hannibal Lecter vibe, just, you know, the fact that the serial killer has some kind of fixation on her and is doing something that is, you know, enabling her to get ahead in her career. Whether or not he knows it or not, I don't know, but I thought the premise was really interesting. This book, The Cutting Edge by Jeffrey Deaver, kind of reminds me of that other book that I mentioned. It's also about a killer that murders people and then leaves behind the jewels, and it seems like the killer's making some kind of statement against these rich people. So that sounds really interesting to me, and it kind of sounds a lot like that other book, so maybe I'll read these two like back to back or something. I don't know, it depends on how much I'm in the mood for, you know, vigilante killer that targets rich people. Maybe I'll do a double feature, or maybe I'll specifically try to, like, you know, break up the books so that I don't read them back to back. Definitely don't want to read them at the same time. I'm sure I'll get very confused if I do that. This book is called Right Behind You by Lisa Gardner. I've seen her name somewhere before. I'm really bad about remembering authors' names. I think maybe I read something by her. The problem is I don't remember whether or not I liked whatever it was I read by her. But anyway, this book sounds really good. It is about a girl whose brother murders their father in self-defense to protect both of them, and then several years later, it seems as if he was involved in a double homicide at a gas station and that he's going on a murder spree, and she's trying to figure out if he's involved and, you know, whether or not, and what to do about it if he is. So that just sounds really interesting to me. It sounds like there's like a family drama wrapped inside of a murder mystery thriller. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I might look up this author's name because it's really bugging me now. I know I've read something by her. I'm assuming I probably didn't like it, otherwise I would have remembered her. So we'll see. But yeah, this cover's also really cool, by the way. I really love like that glass breaking in the middle. It's really interesting. I grabbed another James Patterson book based on a recommendation by a friend. It's called Sam's Letters to Jennifer. And if you just look at the cover, I can tell this is probably going to be some sad shit. It definitely looks like a Nicholas Sparks cover, so I imagine this book is going to make me cry. But yeah, it's definitely going to have like a sad romance vibe to it. I can already tell I'm going to need the tissue box for this book. This is the only nonfiction book that I grabbed. It's called Follower's Journal. It's not really about like studying the Bible. It's more about like self-reflection and meditation and praying and like getting closer to Jesus and that kind of stuff. I sound so excited, but I really am glad that I grabbed this book. It definitely doesn't seem like it has any kind of like agenda, or, you know, it's going to involve like, you know, it's terrible to say, I don't think it's going to involve studying the Bible, but I don't think it's like, you know, like an intense scriptural study. It seems like it's more like just trying to be more spiritual and invite more spirituality into your life, which is something that I think would be good for me. So lastly, I got Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This is the only book that I didn't get at the bag sale. During the morning, they have a regular book sale before the bag sale starts, so I actually bought this during the regular book sale for 50 cents. The reason I grabbed this book before the bag sale started is because someone assured me that it would be gone before the bag sale started, and they were probably right as well. Anyways, everyone and their mother has read this book, so I don't really feel like I should talk about it. I actually saw the movie a long time ago, and I didn't love the ending of the movie. I'm not going to get into spoilers here just in case there is someone out there who hasn't read the book or seen the movie yet. But yeah, I wasn't thrilled with the ending of the movie, but I've heard that almost everyone that read the book loved it, so I'm like, maybe I'll like it more when I read the book and I'll have a different perspective than I had with the movie. A lot of hype with this book, both from just strangers on the internet and from people that I've met, so I'm really looking forward to reading this, and I really hope that I enjoy this more than I did the movie, and that maybe, you know, it makes the movie make a little bit more sense to me. Or maybe I should just say makes the character motivation make a little bit more sense. So even if it doesn't, I'm really looking forward to it because I've heard that it's very bleak. And I read the first couple pages just out of curiosity, and I did get hooked like almost right away. So I'm really looking forward to this. It's a really good opening, and I think that, you know, I'm going to really enjoy this book. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. I know I talked about a lot of books today. I'm just really excited about all the books that I got at this book sale. If you've read any of these books, please leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know if you liked it. And if there's any books that I mentioned that you would like me to review, please leave a comment and let me know which book it is that you would like me to review. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. On this channel, I post book reviews, writing advice, horror content, and vlogs. And I just edited a horror anthology called Roadkill 6 Texas Horror by Texas writers. I'll include a link for this in the description box below if you want to check it out. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you later. Today I am doing a Fuck you. What is my hair doing today? I don't know. They made everyone leave the room. We all waited in line in the hallway for a little bit, and then